Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rock and Squawk. Match with my list of the my top 10 favorite X-Men. With Dark Phoenix coming out in a couple days, I figure this now would be a great time to list my 10 favorite X-Men characters. Now, for this list, I am only considering characters who are have at least had major stints as a member of the X-Men. Not X-Force, not Excalibur, X-Factor, what have you. And there has been some cross between there, as we'll see later on. So, at number 10, we've got X-23, Laura Kinney. She's the clone daughter of Wolverine, and basically a legacy character, which Marvel doesn't really do, especially in the kids department, as they kind of just have that sliding time scale, so they don't have to reboot everything when characters get too old. But yeah, anyway, she's had hell of a story arc, or character arc over last, I don't know, 15 years? But yeah, she's going so far as to actually become Wolverine for a brief period while Logan was dead. Now she's discovering family and what it's like to have one. And to be personal, I'm looking forward to seeing her continue to grow over the coming years. At number 9, we've got Professor Charles Xavier. I mean, he's the man who's formed the X-Men. His dream of mutant-human coexistence is the cornerstone of the entire franchise. I would be remiss if he wasn't on the list somewhere. Why he's so low on the list? He has some questionable ways of doing things, or in the past at least. And he also has some outmoded methods that really just don't work anymore. And he hasn't really realized it. And to be perfectly honest, I really, really, absolutely, positively despise the whole X thing with him, with Phantom X's body hosting Xavier's mind, while Phantom X's mind is off in the astral plane. I think that's horrible and a shit way to get to write off a character. Anyway, moving on, we've got Cyclops, who, one of the first students, usually at least field leader, if not the leader, especially lately. He'd probably be higher on the list, except I really didn't care much for his brush with extremism over the last few years before his brief death in X-Men vs. Inhumans. But yeah, he's not my favorite character. Hell, when I was younger, I thought he was a stick in the mud. But even then, I could admit that, yeah, he may be a stick in the mud and a fuddy-duddy, but he is a good leader. I mean, he can effectively tell someone who vocally often expresses his distaste for him vocally in front of everyone, and he can get that guy to, do what he's told. So, yeah. I still remember that scene in one of the issues, one of the Joss Whedon issues of Astonishing X-Men, where Cyclops blasted a Sentinel off the Xavier lawn, and Wolverine said, there are times that you pull someone off, it makes me remember why you're the leader of this team. Yeah. In fact, and even when he was all extremist, he was still dedicated to Xavier's dream, and that dedication has only really matched by his leadership abilities. So anyway, moving on. At number 7, we got Jean Grey, another of the first class of X-Men. Jean's probably the X-Men who has sacrificed the most for the team, or at least one of the X-Men who has. I mean, her life on multiple occasions, her sanity, her marriage, while she was dead for a while, most recently, her family, or at least most of her family. The only family she currently has is her alternate future daughter, Rachel Summers or Rachel Gray. I think Prestige was going by Rachel Gray at the time, but she's now a Hound, for the moment at least. And genetically speaking, her son, Cable, who is also dead, but not dead because time travel. So yeah, the rest of her family was killed off by Shi'ar Death Commandos. Next up at number 6, we've got Rogue. Now, I mainly like Rogue because of the X-Men cartoon in the early 90s. And she was awesome. And I remember when I got into the comics and started reading them, she was awesome there too. It was like, okay, alright, I really like this character. And it was really cool to see a character from a superhero from the South who, yeah, she was written to have a Southern accent. She would say "ah" instead of "I," and yeah. But it's writing accents is not easy. So yeah. Anyway, and also she kind of has a tragic and kind of lonely past and life just in general. I mean, except until recently when she married Gambit. But yeah. Anyways, moving on to number 5 is Cable. Now I know what I said about characters who are members of the X-Men, and not not characters who are mostly known for being members of X affiliated teams. And yes, Cable is the founding member of X-Force, the founder of X-Force. But he has also had prolific stints as an actual X-Man. So, eat it. Mindless, not yours. And yeah, while primarily he, and I'll admit, yeah, he probably works as well as he does with the X-Men because they respect the fact that he's, Cyclops' son. But hell, interactions between him and Xavier are actually really interesting to read. Him and Wolverine have an interesting dynamic as well. And him and his father work well together. His uncle, his genetic mom, Hell, he was, oh wow. In the aftermath of House of M, Rogue led a team of X-Men in what would become X-Men Legacy. Or actually, I think at that point it was X-Men Legacy. Or maybe it was still just X-Men. But yeah, anyway, Rogue led a team, and Cable was part of that team. And yeah, he was like, okay, yes, you're the leader of this team, so you tell me what to do. You give me orders, I'll listen. And yeah, and while his methods may be different compared to the other X-Men, he is still just as dedicated to the dream as the others. And I'm not gonna lie, I do have a nostalgic love for Cable wearing ginormous shoulder pads and carrying an even bigger gun and blasting everything in sight. I grew up, I got into comics in the 90s. What do you expect? Alright, number 4, we've got Storm. First off, Storm is one of the greatest leaders of the X-Men, bar none. She's also got one of the best powers there is. And though an interesting question was brought up about it, you know, if she can control weather, then, you know, explain shitty weather. You know, is that her, or is that, you know, why does she control it to go away? It's actually a really good question, and it's because just because she can control the weather doesn't mean she feels the need to do so. She's also, and hell, she can get by without her powers very well, as she has proved on multiple occasions, including a brief stint where she actually lost her powers. And finally, she's actually pretty skilled close combatant, and one of the few that from the giant-sized X-Men #1 onward era who doesn't owe her fight training to Wolverine. She picked it up herself living on the streets as a kid. On the streets of Cairo, to be exact. Next up, we've got Gambit. So, okay, I think Gambit's a fun character, and part of what his first appearance was the first superhero comic book I bought, and yeah, I really like the character. I think he's fun. I think his backstory is fairly interesting, and his powers are pretty cool. And he has some very cool, as well as, you know, he's got abilities not related to his powers, which are equally good, cool. He's grown quite a bit over the last 20 years, going from, you know, I guess I'll hang out with you guys, to, yeah, I'm an X-Man. And even, like, as mentioned before, marrying Rogue. And, fun fact, for a while, Gambit was actually thought to be the mysterious third Summers brother. The third Summers brother thing came from a throwaway line of Mr. Sinister's to Cyclops about him, concerning him and his brothers, which people noticed, and oh, brothers. I mean, we know about Havoc, but who's the other brother? I mean, we'll figure there's at least one, you know. And Sinister had an interest in Gambit, so the theory kind of was, hey, well, maybe it's Gambit. You know, maybe it's Gambit, and that's what would explain. You know, he's got those weird red eyes, and you know, so maybe. But actually, no. It's because it was revealed eventually that Gambit owed Sinister for curbing his powers. As it turns out, if his powers were allowed to continue to grow, to manifest, he could potentially burn out the entire planet. So, yeah. But yeah, he ended up having to lead the Marauders, we'll get to in a different video, to the Morlock tunnels so they could kill the Morlocks. Moving on to number 2, we've got Havoc. Cyclops' younger brother, and as well as a former Starjammer. The Starjammers being a group of space pirates brought together by Corsair, Cyclops and Havoc's father. He's a former Havoc's a former Avenger as well, and a member of various X teams, most notably X Factor and the X Men themselves. Just as capable a leader as his brother, and at the very least in the same ballpark power wise. Hell, he once drained the Hulk of gamma radiation, or at least drained him enough that it caused the Hulk to pass out. But it was also more power than he could really hold. So Havoc let it loose and then passed out himself. Sadly, he's generally overlooked and underrated while kept in the shadow of his brother. I've actually kind of been digging how they've been treating him though in recent Uncanny X-Men run. Also, he was the center of the last run of Astonishing X-Men, where they actually did a good job handling him, I thought. All right, so before we get to number one, I'm sure you can guess, but we got a few honorable mentions. Nightcrawler. Most of the X-Men, in all honesty, can pass for human. Hell, if Cable wore gloves, full gloves, and a jacket, no one's gonna and manage to get the technovirus to yeah. Hell, Cable has passed for normal, and he's got a cybernetic arm. Cyclops, I'll just wear some ruby quartz sunglasses. Rogue, I'll just make sure I'm as covered as possible so that I don't accidentally touch anyone and cause them to pass out. Yeah, so on and so forth. Nightcrawler has to use an image inducer, an actual device that makes him look like a regular human being. And, I mean, there's a guy with friggin' wings. Wings! Who has an easier time hiding his powers in public than that. And yet, he's still just as dedicated to everything with the X-Men. They're his family. In some cases, kind of literally, at least in one. Rogue as kind of sort of his sister, as Rogue was largely raised by Mystique, her powers manifested, and Nightcrawler Mystique's son, like actual son. Next up on the honorable mentions is Psylocke. She's been through hell. Hell, she lost her body and had to reform it lately. Ninja, telepath, yeah. One might say she came off as being a bit OP, but I always had a thing for her. And yeah, okay, maybe my thing for the character was partially because, she was, yeah. But I think she really found her niche. She especially found her niche with X-Force. At least while she had the alien body. And now, I mean, I guess it's kind of let's figure out where they're going to put her now. Next up, Bishop. I love the whole time travel aspect of Bishop, and yeah, okay, the futuristic weapons. And I think his powers are actually pretty cool too. The whole thing where he can get hit with an energy blast from an opponent, and then just turn it right back on them. Hell, one of my favorite pages, one of my favorite 2-page spreads was from, at least I think it was a 2-page spread. It was either a full page shot or a 2-page spread. It was from Uncanny X-Men number 304. Leon Rasputin's funeral. She died of the legacy virus. Magneto crashed the funeral. Was like, hey, so who wants to come join me up on my space station? And I was like, yeah, you can go to hell, Magneto. And he also claimed he was there to pay his respects as Ileana was briefly his student. Long story, it's another time. But to make sure that he wasn't just immediately attacked, Magneto held everyone in place with his powers. Because that's how powerful Magneto honestly is. And he was using energy to do so, however. And Bishop was absorbing it. And soon, Bishop got to the point where he couldn't hold it any longer. And so, he let it off at Magneto. And then, all the other X-Men with energy powers just piled on energy blasts onto Bishop while he stood over Magneto like this, hands like this, with an energy beam coming out of each finger. So yeah, he's a character that I think doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. Next up, Colossus, and Colossus is a character that I honestly do think of as being essential to the team. He's their ground pounder brick, you know. He's the guy that he's one. You know, you send him to punch down a wall. He punches down a wall, but he's so much more. He's an artist. He cares about his home more than anything. His family, what's left of it. Yeah, I mean his character's been through a lot. And last time I'll mention is Archangel. This is a guy that one of the founding X-Men. He was turned into one of the X-Men's greatest enemies by becoming the Horseman of Death, and it turns out that the Horseman of Death is still in there. So yeah, I actually really liked in the first one of the recent X-Force runs where it turned out that he can go back and forth between being Angel and Archangel. And of course, at number one, obviously, Wolverine. The best there is of what he does, and what he does ain't pretty. Wolverine's the character that got me interested in the X-Men in the first place. And since he first appeared in 1974's Incredible Hulk number 181, he has evolved greatly as a character. And, to be honest, sold a lot of comic books, toys, and movie tickets. And t-shirts. And, anything you can slap his face on, he's sold a lot of. So, yeah. But he's evolved from an asshole with a mysterious past into an asshole with a tragic past and somewhat malleable code of honor. Though not too malleable. I mean, he's willing to make the tough decisions that others won't. Example, in the beginning of House of M, the X-Men and the Avengers have come together to discuss what to do about Scarlet Witch, because 6 months previously she went crazy, attacked the Avengers, killed some of them in the process, and then Magneto took her to Genosha. Then Xavier and Doctor Strange wrote there, like, yeah, the two of us have been trying to help her. There's nothing either of us can do. And so Wolverine simply says, okay, then we go and kill her. Simple as that. Of course, the only person to agree with him was Emma Frost. Yeah. Though I think Emma's take on reasoning was a bit different from than Wolverine's. Wolverine was actually coming from a place of, if if she's this much of a problem, we kind of, we're kind of have to kill her. It's the right thing to do. But whereas I think Emma was more, it was more. Yes, it's the right thing for mutant kind, but it's also a way to stick a middle finger up to Magneto. So, yeah. I don't think Wolverine really cared about the fact that she was Magneto's daughter. Well, thought to be Magneto's daughter at the time. Turns out, because she's not a mutant either. But yeah, anyway. So, yeah. Anywho, that's my list of my favorite X-Men. Next week we'll be doing a list of my favorite villains. That was going to get a little interesting because we'll be doing not just individual characters, but teams as well. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon is in the description box down below. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. And as always, this is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.